This episode is brought to you in part by Exoterra. If you're as passionate about reptiles and amphibians as I am, you know that quality matters. I use Exoterra products on all my reptile and amphibian enclosures, which is why I'm excited to be partnering with them. From naturalistic decor to innovative lighting and enclosures of all sizes, Exoterra has everything you need for your cold-blooded companions. Exoterra. Make your reptiles feel at home. This episode contains a paid sponsorship placement for True Chroma by Faunalux. Lighting reptiles isn't just about brightness or giving UVB, it's about illuminating the world that animals actually thrive in. Introducing True Chroma by Faunalux, a premium, revolutionary LED spotlight purpose-built for animals. Faunalux has worked with lighting experts and biologists to develop something totally new. Reptile Vision Technology, a bespoke single-source chip delivering high levels of visible light and proportional UVA1. That means your animals can get true full-color vision for the first time. Tried and tested by zoos, vets, and passionate keepers worldwide, True Chroma is now available at fauna-lux.com/expertidiot10 for 10% off your order today. True Chroma from Faunalux. Educated by nature. This episode is brought to you in part by Unlimited Exotic Pets. Every day is Veranda Day for Nick Lillis, and it shows. At Unlimited Exotic Pets, Nick produces high-quality monitor lizards with a deep commitment to ethical care practices and top-tier nutrition. These aren't just pets. They're responsibly bred, ethically raised animals. Whether you're looking for a new companion, starting a breeding project, or anything in between, Nick has you covered. Unlimited Exotic Pets, keeping and breeding quality without limitations. Love reptiles? Don't miss this. If you're passionate about reptiles, amphibians, and everything cold-blooded, Reptiles magazine is a must-have. Each issue is packed with expert care tips, stunning photography, and the latest news in the reptile world. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or just starting your reptile journey, this magazine has something for you. Subscribe today and stay informed on the best ways to care for your scaly friends. For only $14.99 a year, you can step outside your algorithm and get exposure to things that you wouldn't normally see or learn about. My family reads Reptiles magazine, and you should too. Visit subscribe.reptilesmagazine.com to get started. This is the Expert and the Idiot podcast. If you like the show and you'd like to support us, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. Some benefits include getting access to new episodes up to a month in advance. There's also links to USARK and USARK Florida. If you're not already a member, please sign up. Enjoy the show. All right, well, welcome to episode 79 of The Expert and the Idiot. Today I'm talking with Dan Mulleary of DM Exotics. And I'm looking forward to talking to you because I've heard you on various podcasts, and it seems like, where do you live the majority of the time?
Good question. The majority of the time we live in Thailand. So
Okay.
We're in Thailand at our house over there about 9 months out of the year. And then we usually come back to the US in June. And we're here for like June, July, August, and then a little bit in September if everything goes right. And then we head back.
So are you, when you're over there, are you going out on like collecting expeditions often? Like is that part of your time over there, or is it mostly coming in from people that are collecting animals and farms and things like that?
Yeah, we're not really doing any collecting ourselves, although that probably is going to change in the near future because we started some new projects over there. But it's a huge network in different countries over there in Southeast Asia. So while we're over there, we're doing a combination of just living our normal life. And then of course we're filming different, content for our YouTube. And then of course we're also visiting our business partners and getting out into the jungle, which is usually documenting and making content for our YouTube channel. But we are also learning along the way, and we just chose to share what we're doing and what we're learning as we're doing it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So how did you end up in this position that you're in now?
Interesting. So I retired from a normal job at the end of 2020 here in Southern California. I had a law enforcement career that spanned over 31 years. But during that time, I also was running DM Exotics. So I started DM Exotics in 1997, and I just ran that business alongside me working full-time or more than full-time most weeks, and having a regular job. So finally, I reached retirement age. I clocked in enough years at the end of 2020. My wife is Thai, and we had already built a house in 2017 in Thailand. So I already knew like our path and what direction we were going to go. But the thing that I didn't know at the time was, what was I going to do with DM Exotics? So we already had a YouTube channel, which wasn't at the time anything, is actually very small. It still is somewhat small, but it's a lot bigger than it was at that time. So it wasn't anything like I could go be a YouTuber, I could go do this, I could go do that. And I was seriously considered just hanging it up and just shutting down DM Exotics completely. That's where I was leaning on that pretty heavily. And then I came up with the idea about 2 years before my retirement year came up. And I thought, you know what? With the help of my Malaysia partner, I wonder if I can move most of my collection to Malaysia and we can do a breeding facility in Malaysia. He liked the idea, and I was on board, of course. I'm the one that presented it, and that's what we did. So prior to me actually being retired, I started exporting chunks of my collection overseas. And so he set up the facility. I provided all the animals. He also provided me his best employee, which is now my facility manager. And so that's what prompted me to just continue on with DM Exotics. And so then I retired. It was in the middle of COVID. We found ourselves over there, but still going through like the animal markets, and we were still able to develop a lot of contacts over there, mostly because everything was so slow during COVID for everybody over there. And it allowed us to develop some pretty good personal relationships with a lot of new people, not just our existing partners, but new people. And then once we found ourselves over there, and we just got deeper and deeper into it. And I'm one of those people that just doesn't quit, and I'll take on all kinds of way too many projects and way too many like ideas and concepts and see them through. So that's kind of where we're at now. I'm like really, really deep into this thing. So, but I'm having fun at it. So that's the main thing. I'm doing it more for fun as a hobbyist, and I like to challenge myself to see if I can do certain things that really haven't been done before. So we're working on a lot of new things over there too. So, and when I'm here now in SoCal, but I run my business here, domestic as a US business, but I feel like the world is passing me by when I'm not over there. It's like, I feel like I need to be in ground zero, getting at it. So, that's kind of in a nutshell, sort of how all this got started. And now I feel like I don't see an end to it at this point. Everything is rocking and rolling pretty good. And I have some things that I've kind of tossed out in my future that I'm trying to knock down. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening at this point.
So how I want to go back and I want to ask you some questions about the beginning of DM Exotics. What was it back in 1997? Where were you, like, what were you What were you breeding? What were you getting into? How long had you been into reptiles at that point in time?
Yeah, so I'm going to be 55 in a couple months. I got my first snake when I was about 9. It didn't come from anybody in my family, no friends, nothing. It was just something that just sparked in me. And I just started having this like insatiable curiosity for reptiles. And luckily, I was able to convince my parents to let me have one, and then it turned into 2, and then it became 10, and then 20. And, you get permission for several, and then, next thing they know, they're coming in your room going, where did those come from? He's like, oh, don't you remember? You said that I could, and then the collection was just growing like crazy. Um, I bred my first snakes when I was about 13 or 14 by accident.
Wow.
Um, I had a boa constrictor, and then I worked at a pet store also when I was like 14 years old. So I borrowed a snake from my manager at the shop. So I guess that would be about 14. And I put them together because I wanted to see if I could breed them. And I did, sort of by accident, because I had no idea what I was doing. And most people way back then, that was 1984. And breeding, not a lot of people were breeding reptiles way back then. It was mostly, myself included, you would just have one of everything. It was just from a collecting standpoint, you have like one retic and one Savannah monitor and one of these, one of those, and all that. And then once I accidentally bred boa constrictors at a very young age, then that changed my mindset. I wanted pairs of everything. And I started kind of down that path by myself, just sort of thinking, well, I did it this one time, so, and then it just became this thing, and it just grew and grew and grew, and everything kind of fed into it. Um, I left that job. I was 18, and then that's kind of when I started with civil service and getting things started with a real job. And I still kept reptiles, but not on a huge scale, but probably significant to most people. I had in my apartment, I had like a 2-bedroom, and one of those bedrooms was my snake room. And then we started going to expos and started meeting some of the big names way back in those days, and just gaining knowledge. And just, let's see, in 1996, I bred carpet pythons. I had like 2 or 3 clutches in one season. And I had a friend that was managing a chain of stores also nearby to my apartment, and they were doing a reptile show, an expo as vendors, and they asked me if, hey, you have some surplus carpet pythons. Do you want to come and share the booth with us or whatever? So I did, and that was in 96. And from there, like, that was the first time I'm vending a show. And I kind of learned the ins and outs, how the load in, the load out, the kind of just the whole thing. That was huge for me, just kind of figuring out and learning those inside little details. And then, yeah, I bred carpets again the next year, plus a few other things. And in 97, I wanted to do an expo. He wasn't doing it, but I wanted to do it. So then I had to go forward with the resale license and all that stuff. And then I found myself vending my first show by myself in 97. And I just kept doing it. I did it all throughout my regular job. I found a position in my work that at later I found a position that gave me weekends and holidays off. And
Nice.
so that worked perfectly with what I was doing for expos and those sorts of things. So I ran the business just alongside that. It was a great escape from a crappy job that was, had a lot of ups and downs. And so anytime I had bad days at work or depressing things that I had to deal with or whatever, I always used the animals back at home as a way to escape. And it just kept my mind straight the whole time. And yeah, I was always just excited to go home and like check on, the new babies, or go check the eggs, or whatever the case may be. And so, I just use it as an escape. Then if you want me to continue on, in 2003, and at that time I was still buying animals from a lot of importers in Florida, and all those sorts of things. But because I was in Southern California, I was competing against local buyers in Florida. And so I had a really hard time getting like the first pick of whatever brand new pythons would come in from Indonesia. And I was always kind of like, sometimes I would get lucky, but most of the time I would get passed over because I'm the guy that didn't walk in and grab it locally or whatever. And so in 2003, I decided, after I asked around, I asked all kinds of importers and all sorts of different business people. Nobody told me. Most people did not respond at all. And I'm asking, like, how do I get into this importing thing? And with no help from anybody, in 2003, I just got on a plane and just went to Southeast Asia. And it took me many trips. I went through a lot of people that I would just meet. I was just knocking on doors and going to animal markets and ask, the big question after I got to know people would be like, hey, so can you export? And most people always said yes, even though they couldn't. And it took me a long time to find my way to all the right people. And I eventually did. And so I got lucky. I found one. And then from there, that contact sort of got me into a neighboring country. And then from there, through circumstances, I got myself into yet another country. And most of, not all, but most of those contacts that I made way back then, I'm still in business with today. And we're like really close friends. You could imagine it's been, 15, 20 years of doing business together, and not just sitting here like on a computer like I'm doing now, but actually, having them pick me up at their local airport, or staying at their house and going to their facilities and all that stuff. So we've developed like really, really solid relationships with a lot of people. And so that just added this big change, this huge element to DM Exotics, because now I was the guy. So now I'm picking my animals from my own shipments, and I'm going to farms, and I'm going to suppliers, and I'm picking my animals directly from their facilities. And so that was great. I just stepped over everybody and just got right to ground zero, and just started doing it. And so that was huge for me. And I didn't do it because I wanted to make money. I did it because I wanted to grow my collection. I wanted the standout collection. I wanted stuff that nobody else had. I wanted to be the first to breed like all kinds of different species. I wanted to acquire brand new species that aren't in the hobby. And when I say like this has been a passion, I mean, I've had my nose in books at the library from when I was just a little kid, and still to this day. Now we have the internet, of course, that makes it so much better, but it's been a whole lifelong endeavor of just educating myself, being aware of what's available or what occurs in different countries. And so it's a pretty big knowledge base that I have in my head, and I take it with me, of course, everywhere I go. And now there's a lot more information up here that I still am able to be lucky enough to hold on to. So, now I know trade laws and CITES, and where, lots of scientific names. I know a lot of hobbyists sometimes when they watch my videos and they complain about scientific names, but in this industry, we use scientific names. And so, that changed for me along the way. And so, and I bring that all with me everywhere I go. Whatever my eyes are taking in, and I see something, and it's like I'm already like processing it, going, what appendix do they fall on with CITES? is it ESA? Is it an invasive species? Can I import it? Is there a quota? Blah, blah, blah. And it just goes on and on and on. And I just like process it really fast in my brain. So there's a
Wow.
lot to it, but it's a whole lifetime of experience and knowledge that I've just stacked. And,
Mm.
and, and I'm still having a lot of fun with it, still.
When you were in law enforcement, were observational skills part of your skill set? Was it required? Do you think that's where you kind of grew that skill to be able to run through all these things as you're taking in what's around you?
I'm not sure because honestly, I worked with a lot of people that they were, like not too sharp, right?
Sure.
So, yeah. So I just always been kind of lucky where um, I've never been like the smartest kid, but I've always been a pretty smart kid, right? So, um, just I was lucky, and I was born with the ability to like process and all that other stuff. But
Mm.
the one thing that my career benefited me was that I really got good at the ability to deal with people and how to read people, and to um, just being able to have that knack of sort of is this a good person? Is this a bad person? Is this person gonna, is he gonna screw me? Is this a scammer? Is whatever? And I
Mm.
was able to pretty like in a pretty good way, like read people. Not always, but I got real good at reading people basically. And so that in hindsight was definitely something that benefited me, that came out of my job. And also to be able to posture. There were a few crazy situations where I had to where things went a little south and got a little sketchy, so you have to know like to when to posture and when to back down, so to speak. So that was also a skill that I developed, as well, where you
So
have to know, like,
this is overseas, not
yeah,
in your law enforcement career. Can you tell me one of those stories?
um, yeah, like it happened mostly in the beginning. It Those situations could still occur, but I feel like now I'm really good at reading people, and I just don't go down that path. I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with this guy. I already know where this is going, and then I just don't go down that path. But in the very beginning, yeah, um, I was doing some transactions with a guy overseas, face to face, and I had taken like two or three, I think two shipments, maybe three shipments, and they were losing shipments. There was loss. The shipments wouldn't come in as promised, or containing the right animals, DOA and all those sorts of things. And then one one day when I was over there, he was like, "Hey man, I want to clear all this debt. I owe you quite a bit. Can you can you get into your bank account and figure out how much you've sent me, because because he owed me money." So I was thinking to myself, wow, that's crazy. This guy's gonna, it sounds like he wants to make good on, because I'm in the hole at this point, and I'm owed either animals or money, and it sounds like he just wants to clear the debt. So I went into his shop, and he had another guy. This was a long time ago. This was like 20 years ago. But um, usually when I went into the shop, it would be him or his daughter, or both. And this time when I went in, it was him, and he had like another uh, just random guy in there. And he was polishing some glass tanks, but he was just playing around. He was just polishing the same spot like the whole time I walked in there. And so what happened was, I presented, I walk in, "Hey man, how's it going? Whatever. Here's the figures. I went into my bank. This is what it's looking like. Um, this is about how much you owe me at this point." And then he flipped it around, and he said that I had ordered some geckos, from him, and he had sent some collectors down to collect them, and they were collecting them out of a national park, which I didn't have any knowledge of. And the whole story was kind of BS anyway. And I'll tell you why at the end. But he said that his two collectors got caught collecting in the national park and they got arrested, and that he had to pay the police X amount of money to get his two collectors out of jail. And then so he flipped it and he goes, so you actually owe me money because I had to pay this much and you say that I owe you this much and it's not the same amount and you owe me money. And at that point, this mystery person in there that was like polishing cages or whatever, now he stopped polishing cages. And now it's turning into like one of these situations where I'm like, okay, this is going to be bad, right? So of course, like you have to read it, I'm like looking over my shoulder. I see this guy. And so I had to like sort of become the Incredible Hulk in a way, I had to like really posture. I had to show some anger. I had to, slam my fist down on his desk. And luckily it was enough to have this guy that was in there afraid, because he was kind of like, he's like, I'm supposed to be the muscle here, but this dude's way bigger than me. And I don't think I want to be involved in this or whatever. And then I was able to just, I don't remember what I said, but I made some threatening verbal exchange, I guess you could say. And I stormed out of there, slammed his door on the way out. And like, as soon as I turned the corner, I was like, oh man, I gotta get back to my hotel, and I gotta change hotels because the guy knew what hotel I was staying at. And it was pretty sketchy. I called home actually, and I called my mom and I said, I'm relocating to this hotel. This is the name and this is the address of this hotel. And if you don't see me walking out of the airport at LAX on this date when I'm supposed to fly home, this is my last known location, is going to be at this new hotel that I'm relocating to. And I was that like freaked out where I thought people were going to be coming to my hotel later on that day to collect or whatever the case may be. But nothing happened. And I never did business with that guy. That guy has since died. I think he died from cancer or something later. I hadn't seen him for many, many years, and I just never went back. But that was just one of the situations that had me thinking like, wow, this is crazy. I'm just here doing reptiles, but of course, a lot of times in Southeast Asia, the reptile business a lot of times goes along with like mafia and stuff. There's a lot of underground stuff going on. There's lots of smuggling going on and that. And so you never really know. You're dealing with, with like some Chinese mafia, connected people or what the case may be. And so, yeah. And before I forget, so the gecko thing was BS because the next supplier that I came into contact with in Malaysia, I showed him a photo of the geckos that I took in this guy's shop at the time. And he recognized that all those containers were his containers. And he was the one that was shipping those geckos from Malaysia to him. So he was like, no, that guy, he's not collecting those. That's all my packing. That's all my containers. And I know he knew the guy. He shipped him many, many shipments. And so the whole thing was BS. And I was able to confirm that after the fact. But no, you just never know. You just never know who you're dealing with. Even today, like there's some people that we do business with, and you're kind of like, I don't even want to ask. Like I don't want to ask, and some people you don't want to get like too deeply involved with, but because you just don't know a lot of these people. Obviously, the ones that I'm doing business with now for the like long period of time, those people are straight, and they're like, those are like family to me. And so I don't worry about them. We don't really do business with new people very much. It's just not worth it sometimes, but Yeah, you just never know. You just never know. It's strange. Very strange business when you're over there.
Did you meet your wife while you were over there?
I did. I did. Not intentionally. We met in 2007, and yeah, we just hit it off really well. Um, she was attending university at the time, and so as we started to get to know each other and we started to develop a relationship, I wanted to make sure that she graduated from university first before I started any kind of immigration procedures or anything like that. So, um, but yeah, we got it done, and I brought her here to the U.S. in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
do you guys both have like dual citizenship?
She does. I do not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though you spend 9 months out of the year over there?
yeah. It's not easy to get citizenship
Oh wow.
in other countries. It's really difficult. It can be done if you're like really wealthy. You can do it through investment a lot of times, um, but even then, it's still quite difficult. They make it very difficult to become citizen in other countries, and I don't need it. I figured out all the immigration stuff and the visa stuff and all the how to make things work for me in the best way, and so it's not that big a deal. You just get that. I'm over 50, so I have a retirement visa. That's what a lot of younger people that are under 50 wish, that they could get retirement visas, but um, 50 is like the magical age where you get like a lot, like more of a hassle-free visa when
Hmm.
you're 50 or over. So
Okay.
yeah.
So kind of walk me through like the process of I know that you've had like Timor pythons before. So let's use them as an example. How do you go from how do they end up here up for sale? Like, like what's that process like? Just looking at sort of one animal. So the Malayo python timoriensis. So you get some of those, like where are you getting them from? What's the quarantine process like? Are they captive bred? Do they just get gravid females in? What are you doing as far as like viruses, parasites, mites, all this stuff, and then how do they end up here clean and for sale?
So believe it or not, the US is very lax when it comes to quarantine.
Hmm.
Some countries, animals have to go into quarantine, but the US doesn't have that for reptiles. So, um, but yeah, like Timor pythons, I just imported some. So I went to the farm. Uh, there were there were babies on the farm and some bigger adults like parental stock, but there were 6 babies, all like clutch mates, all the same size and everything. And I I looked at them all, and I picked them all, and we had a permit for 6, and then we just brought them over. Uh, but for my personal protocol, when animals come in, um, they immediately go into prevenamite treated cages. That's the first thing. All the cages I use prevenamite. They're already pre-treated at least one day ahead of arrival, so everything has a chance to be aired out and dry and everything else. All the animals go into those cages, and then the of course they're provided water and hides. That's the most important thing in my opinion, because it reduces stress. And I know a lot of people put their animals into quarantine. They put animals on paper towels. Uh, they might spray them down with that awful frontline or whatever the case may be. But um, we just do normal cages with substrate, with a water bowl, and with hides or branches, depending if it's a semi-arboreal or arboreal species. And then we just let animals settle. I'll give them a couple days to settle, and then I'll offer food. I'm usually offering live food because most animals I mean, they like fresh food, right? They like live food. So a lot of times that's my first offering. And then I gauge it by then. There's either a feeding card or I have a label on the outside, and I just take notes on everything. What it, if it's in shed, if it refused food because it was in blue, like I have to, because it's a lot of animals, and I want to know when I go back to that animal, did it eat last week? Did it skip food? But if I don't put a note on there that it was in shed, then I don't know if it skipped food because it was in shed or not. And so I do all those notes. Usually the second meal, I will do frozen thawed, or maybe even the third meal. And inside those feeders, I will do a mix of Flagyl and Panicure, just out of a precaution, just because. Flagyl has a nice benefit of being an appetite stimulant also. So that's why I like to use both. Plus, of course, there's different types of parasites, gram positive and gram negative, and so each one does something different. And it's just a shotgun approach.
What does that mean, gram positive and gram negative?
The way that I kind of describe it, I'm not a biologist or anything, but pretty much gram positive is the stuff that you can probably see with your eyes, and gram negative is stuff that you can't. So again, I might be using the wrong words, but like the small little amoebas and whatever you see with a microscope, that's usually going to be gram negative, right? And then gram positive would be, the little tapeworms or roundworms and that sort of thing. So we use both, even though we don't really know what we're treating, if we're even treating anything. But I know other people will get animals in, and the first thing they do is just tube them with meds. And that's just horrible for stress. You're just compounding stress. If the animal has parasites, as long as you reduce the stress, the animal's going to be okay for a while. It's the stress and dehydration. Like those are the two things that are really bad, even just after shipping, right? It just we get thirsty after long flights. Animals get thirsty after long flights as well. So hydrating animals in that. And then, and then from there, we just started doing like nido testing for a lot of python species. We started doing that last year, actually. So now we nido test all of our green trees, and a lot of our higher end stuff like Clastolepis and different animals like that. We'll go ahead and go through the nido testing, even though I've never had any scrub pythons or other animals test positive for nidovirus, and talking to other people as well. It's not something that we see very often, but for green tree pythons, it's not common, but sometimes coming off the farm, animals will pop a positive test, and then we just, if that happens, we just separate animals, and then we'll retest again a second time. But it was funny when I made that decision to start doing nido testing of green tree pythons. I knew that it was going to affect me, maybe in a negative way financially, because once something has nidovirus, we don't, we wouldn't sell it. And so that's the main reason why most people aren't testing. Most people that are in the business of selling aren't testing, because it's going to hurt their pocketbook at some point if they pop any positive tests. So I knew that was going to potentially affect me, but it had the opposite effect, because the hobby in general really thought that was a great thing by us implementing that into our protocol, and it pulled way more people like into our customer base. And now people are, I hear it all the time where people are like, I wouldn't buy any imports from anybody other than you, because they trust us and all that. And so, but that's about it, really. We just do, we aren't running tests on any colubrids or anything. And we just make sure that animals are feeding and healthy and look right and don't have any issues before we sell stuff. And not everything that we sell is wild caught. Everything we sell is pretty much imported, except for the animals that we're breeding here in the U.S. Everything is a import. but that doesn't mean that everything is wild caught, because we're obviously breeding animals in our facility overseas, and we do buy animals that are produced by hobbyists overseas sometimes, and we run those through our exporters, and then they make their way into our shipments as well. So it's not like, you know, a lot of people get it twisted where they think, oh, he's an importer, and then that just defaults to being everything is wild caught, and that's not true. That's not true. Yeah, and plus we're handpicking animals as well, so that alleviates a whole mess of stuff just in and of itself, because most people aren't going over there and handpicking anything. They're just putting, filling out an Excel spreadsheet and sending an order over there, and then they're picking and pulling and sending whatever they send to you. You have no choice in the matter.
Yeah. So they go to your facility over where is your facility overseas?
Our facility is in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, but not everything is going through our facility. Also, we're buying from other facilities in Indonesia, but my breeding facility is in Malaysia.
Okay. And you have a breeding facility here in America as well?
I just have a smaller collection. It's consists of less than 50 animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So now everything that you sell here in America has to come from Malaysia to California, and then they go from California and then they get sold.
Yeah, just FedExed out, or we sell at the expos or whatever. Or we have animals that we're producing here also here in California as well from our collection, like the Antaresia, and we have different pythons and things that we're pairing and stuff. We're trimming it down, but like the first couple years after I retired, at one point we were breeding all kinds of colubrids, in my absence. That's a whole nother thing that, like, you could do a whole podcast on how difficult that is, because I'm like vagabond. I'm like the worst reptile owner ever, because I'm not really in one place for very long. And so I rely on other people to take care of my animals pretty much everywhere I'm at, or everywhere I'm not at, I should say. So in Malaysia, I have a manager that I rely on, and so I have to give him tons of direction, and he needs to report to me what's going on, or what's happening, or this laid eggs, or do you want me to pair this? I saw this, and those sorts of things. And I'm doing the same thing when I'm over there. I'm doing the same thing for my people here. And I'm telling them, hey, make sure these animals get put together. I just checked the weather. You're going to be getting rain in 3 days. So I want those animals together because of storms coming in or whatever. And so like, I'm all over the place trying to get everybody squared away. And that's really, really challenging.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I mean, how many collections do you actually own? And then, but they're primarily managed by other people, right? I mean,
it's just basically wild. Two. Our Malaysia facility is big. That's the main one. And then the animals here in California, mainly those animals are here because I'm afraid if I send them out of the country, there's going to be problems getting them back into the country. Like they're going to be stuck. Wherever I send them, they're going to be stuck. And so it's safer to leave them here, like for the benefit of the hobby in general. A lot of animals, if they're so rare, and I was lucky to have some here in Southern California, and I decide, you know what, let me send them to the bigger facility where I've got more staff or whatever, but they may not be able to come back. They may be stuck in Malaysia, and then that doesn't help the hobby at all with the super rare stuff. So there's some things that I'm just leaving here because of that. It's not import export is not an easy thing, and there's a lot of weird things that happen. A lot of laws come into play. Airlines sometimes make up their own rules, and they stop handling things and refusing to accept things. And so that, like, those are all things you I have to take into consideration. So sometimes we just leave stuff where it's at because that's the best place for it.
Wow. So how many employees do you have altogether? I mean, I would assume that you don't want to have like too many hands in the cookie jar, right?
No, I I have one, like in Malaysia, I have my facility manager, and then he can pull staff from my partner's workforce to do like the menial tasks. It's like, hey, I need help. We're doing water bowls today, and then he'll just grab one of the staff, and then that's like very basic stuff. But my facility manager, he's the one that's like, he'll be pairing animals under my direction. He doesn't pair anything unless I tell him to. So I have to constantly be, like this is just a stupid example, but we had a clutch of blue beauties that were laid. He sent me photos when that female laid eggs, and like I have to keep a note because when those eggs are due to be hatching, I have to send him a reminder because he doesn't only just manage my facility. He's doing my partner's retail. He's doing special events. He's doing trade shows. He's getting pulled left and right. So I have to like remind him, but he's pretty good, but I have to remind him, I send him a message and say, hey, according to my calendar, those blue beauty eggs should be getting close to hatching. Don't forget to check those, and then usually he'll respond and go, my gosh, your timing is incredible. I just checked and like one of them is out already, or something. And then so I have to keep on top of all of these different things. It's super hectic. It's super crazy. I have this weird, like, I almost like I don't look down, but like I look at hobbyists like here in the US that have their collections with them full time. Like I'm looking at you and you have your collection behind you, right? And I'm like, you are so lucky. You have no idea how easy you have it because you're managing your own collection. It's probably in your house, in one of your bedrooms or your garage or whatever the case may be. And I did that for so many years and I was so good at it. It was so easy to just take a stroll through the room in the morning, get home from work, take another stroll from, through there in the evening time, check on things in the middle of the night if I need to with a flashlight, creep around and, see what I see. But I don't have the ability to do that stuff anymore in these days. So it was a trade-off. Like, do I want to be retired and have freedom to like travel and do cool things? Or do I want to just stay and just be a reptile breeder? Because I see that too. And I'm not knocking anybody, but I see a lot of people here in the US, like you see it through Facebook, right? Because everybody puts everything on social media and you see these older guys and they retire and a lot of them retire from a really good job. And then like, they're content just being at home and running their collections at home. And that's what they do all the way until they check out of this world. Right. And so I don't want to do that. Like, I feel like now's my opportunity to go see the world and go do some exciting stuff. And so, but at the same time, I didn't want to let go of my collection because like, these are all projects that I've been spending like many years working on and trying to acquire and all these other things. So that was the trade-off. That was the only trade-off that I could come up with without letting go and stepping away from my personal collections, but still being able to travel and do cool stuff. And so that's just the balance that I found, and it may change down the road. I don't know. You just never know, how life goes, but that's the trade-off. That's the way I see it. That's the way I kind of, analyze it. And that's basically what's going on.
Oh yeah, it's always. I mean, I'm going to be going on vacation here pretty soon, and it's stressful as hell because I'm like stopping feeding. That way there's not waste everywhere, and you know you have to have a friend that you can trust to come over and check on everything, and and ideally they like snakes, but maybe they don't have snakes because you don't want any Joe Schmo that has ball pythons or whatever, and potentially some virus or bringing a pest into the house, so it's
or if you bring somebody over that thinks they know a lot, they think that they know better than you, and then they don't follow what you told them to do. They start doing their own thing, and then that's also a little scary, where it's like, scary. I didn't tell you to cut those eggs open, or what are you doing? So when I leave, as I'm ramping up to, I'm packing my bags and getting ready to leave for like 9 months at a time or whatever. I have to do all kinds of stuff. I have to prep egg boxes just in case. I have two incubators. Well, I have three incubators, but one of them I pre-programmed to run at Python temps, and then I have two other smaller incubators that I pre-programmed to run at colubrid temps. And then once they're like up and running, then I unplug them. And then because it may not be, it might be 4 or 5 months down the road until there's actually eggs that those need to be used. But when my people plug those into the wall, all the incubators come up to the right temperatures. And then I have to put signs on everything where it's like, this is the Python incubator. This is the colubrid incubator. And then sometimes it's so bad where it's like, well, I don't know what's a Python and what's a colubrid. And then so I have to like, yeah, it can be, I really have to, I don't know, I shouldn't say dummy it down, but that's the only way I can put it is like, I really have to make it simple and clear. And then, I have to prep all the egg boxes, but they're dry. I don't need an egg box filled, with the moisture already sitting for four months. That's not going to work. So I have to make sure that like the right amount of water is being added. Oh man, I could go on and on, but it's really crazy. The feeding regimen, everything has to have a label. It's like feed these once every 2 weeks, feed these once every week. And it just goes on and on and on. It's really crazy, but it's a smaller collection that I have to deal with that. In Malaysia, I don't have to deal with all that stuff. In Malaysia, it's way, my people are more skilled and I don't have to like really do a lot of hand holding, but I do have to make sure that those guys are reporting to me and telling me like what they see or what's going on. So that's the difference, but it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think the results could be way better if I was like full-time, like running the show myself, of course, who knows their animals better than the owner, but I don't know, but it is what it is. I wouldn't be able to take little side trips, to the beach and go scuba diving and go to Papua and travel all around and fly around and do all these things. I wouldn't be able to do all that if I was, just kind of like a prisoner almost to my collection. So that's the trade-off. But it's okay. We still get production. Animal care is pretty easy. It's just snakes. It's no lizards or anything like that. So, snakes are not that difficult to care for, just as long as the basics are right. And you asked me about NexGuard. I wanted to bring this up. I'm sorry. You asked me about mites. I wanted to bring it up too. We started using NexGuard earlier this year. That's the oral Axfalaner. It's made for dogs and cats, but there is official papers where it is very effective in reptiles as well. And so you have to dose it out. It's not cheap. It's in the US, it's available only by prescription through veterinarian, but you can order it outside the country without a prescription. But you give your animals one dose, and it's supposed to be good to treat your animal for up to a month against mites. But of course, if there's no new animals coming in and there's no like cross contamination, you treat your collection one time. And as long as no new mites are coming in, you're probably going to be mite free. And like, that's what we're experiencing. I do it with my personal animals because like one of my workers here, he works at PetSmart. They don't have a lot of reptiles, but that doesn't mean that a mite can't like cruise in on his shirt or shoes or whatever the case may be. So, and sometimes we have to get live feeders for something that might be a little picky or selective while I'm gone, and it holds out for a live. And so we have to go to like a local reptile store or I have to tell them to go, hey, just grab a fuzzy, go get a couple rat pups or whatever it is. And, but my animals have been treated with NexGuard, and I think it works way longer than what it says, because like we did our whole facility in Malaysia and we haven't seen one mite, and it's a big, big, big facility.
Wow.
And so, yeah. Basically, do you know about it? Do you know about it at all?
Yeah. So I've had a couple people on and talked to them about it. I think I've heard like up to 60 days it's good for. in snakes, but so are you doing that like whenever a new animal comes in, they get a dose like in their feeder, or is it only if you see a problem?
No, I do it. I do it in all of my personal animals. I don't do it in all the animals that I'm like. I do normal mite protocol for animals that come in that are going to be for sale.
Mm-hmm.
The prevenamide is like all that protocol works great if you do it right. But like what I'm saying is before I leave for 9 months, everything's going to get next guarded one more time. There's no new animals coming in to my collection, and we're going to eradicate. Even though I don't see any mites anywhere, it doesn't mean that there could be one, or one could come in on a feeder or whatever. But we'll just do the next guard, the last feeding before we split,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to knock everything out. And it's been awesome. It's been such a game changer for us. We do it in the facility. When new animals come in, they get next guarded, and then the existing collection, we're not next guarding every month. We're doing it like every 4 months or something like that, because we're not seeing any mites at all.
That's awesome.
That's why I think it lasts a bit longer than what it says.
I wish that they would just make a NexGuard for snakes.
Yeah.
And just sell it that
outright.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that work overseas? Because it sounds like it's pretty awesome where you can just buy it. There's no prescription required.
Yeah, but there's a lot of fakes.
Of course.
If you go like their version of Amazon or whatever, they have like Shopee, they have Lazada, and you'll search and you'll find it on there for super cheap, and it'll be coming from like a supplier in Vietnam or whatever, but it's too good to be true. It's too cheap. Mm-hmm. So what we do is, because my partner in Malaysia is involved in the retail pet industry, we just get it from the licensed distributor there. And it's cheaper than here because everything is cheaper than here. So it's still kind of expensive, but it's worth it. It's worth the investment. And then when I'm here, I'll order it from like the last time I ordered some from an Australian veterinary supply place, and it came in just fine, no problem.
So wait a minute, you can order it from out of the country and have it shipped to your house?
Yeah.
Oh, what? That's a game changer.
Yeah. I would imagine that that you probably risk getting it taken if they inspect it, but I don't think they really know exactly what they're looking at, because it just comes in a box and it has like a little puppy on it, and it says right on it, it says like flea and tick treatment. But
this is going to be a life hack, because I've been trying to figure out, like, I've been sitting here for months thinking, how am I going to get a competent veterinarian that's going to be willing to write off, like sign off on this if I happen to get a mite infestation and I want to treat with NexGuard, rather than tearing all my enclosures down needlessly, throwing out bedding, treating bedding, all this stuff.
Right.
That is a total hack right there. Being able to just order it from out of the country. I mean, I'm sure it's probably not like legal, right? It's maybe like a gray area.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. Veterinary stuff is usually like not on the radar unless it's like ketamine or something crazy like that. But I think veterinary stuff is usually not really scrutinized. Like amoxicillin or whatever, you can buy that for fish. You can buy capsules of amoxicillin for fish, but you can't go buy any for yourself without a prescription, So it's usually veterinary stuff is okay.
It's not like I'm getting TRT for my snakes.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh man, so that's pretty cool. So you're getting it from a place in Australia, and they ship it here?
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but I can send it to you after we're done or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like AussieVetSupply.com or something like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's so interesting. And so are you, when you're overseas, do you ever see things that are like happening in the political landscape, or, like in just in general? And does it make you uneasy to be overseas and be living over there? Or do you feel generally safe?
No, I feel super safe. That's here, cool. It's like I want to be armed everywhere I go, and always freaked out, but no, over there, not at all. You just don't be stupid and put yourself in stupid places where stupid things are going to happen. You know, like you go to a bar and it's 2 a.m. or whatever. Yeah, that's a good chance there's some stupid stuff. And you're drinking and all that. But no, everywhere we go, everything is great. We don't ever have any issues. And if something is going on, like politically or whatever, we just don't go there.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
And so I want to get into, I really want to get into the spotted pythons. I love spotted pythons. I have just a little trio of spotted striped, spotted pythons. And, yeah, I want to tell me everything you can about them, cause, I'm very interested in them. So those are Antaresia papuensis.
Yeah, this is interesting. I was waiting for you to ask, and then, so I'm going to spill something on your show, before I spill it on my YouTube channel. So I imported 3 brand new wild caught ones a couple of weeks ago. Okay. And one of the shipments on the paperwork, they came in on the CITES paperwork. They came in as Antaresia papuensis. That's the new name. Well, it's not new. It's been since 2021. Okay.
Okay.
It's peer reviewed. It's scientifically, it's an accepted new name. All the databases, everything has updated to Antaresia papuensis, except for CITES website. And they're always notoriously very slow to update their stuff. So they still show it as Antaresia maculosa. And that's what they used to import as, because that's what they used to be recognized as. Even the ones coming from Papua were Antaresia maculosa. But the new paper makes Antaresia maculosa an Australian species only, and it gives the new name Antaresia papuensis to the one that comes from Indonesia. So the inspector that inspected one of those shipments that had 2 of them in it realized that that name is not in the CITES database. And so they gave me a conditional release, which means we're going to let you take the animals to your facility, but you can't do anything with them until we make our decision whether or not we're going to seize them. They're going to make you bring them back to us and we're going to take them, or we're going to clear them and let you have the animals. So I went round and round with them. They sent it twice up to their headquarters for review. Their headquarters came back and said, yes, that's the true name. The permit is valid. The import is valid. Everything is fine, whatever. But the local office took a different position, and they feel that Antaresia maculosa only occurs in Australia, according to the paper, but at the same time, they refuse to recognize the new name of Antaresia papuensis because it's not in their CITES database. So it's like they took one bit of information from the paper that is facts, but they won't take the other new name from the paper, which is also factual, because it's not been updated in their database. So I don't know if you follow that, but that's like the most simple way that I can put it. So finally, they told me I was good to go because their HQ reviewed it and said it was okay. Then the next day they call me back and say it's not okay. And we were going back and forth. So finally they decided to release the animals to me, which, I mean, I already had the animals, but they decided to not seize the animals. But they also told me, do not try to import this species as Antaresia papuensis. And then my next question was, so if I want to import more, do you want me to import them as Antaresia maculosa? And they said no, because that species only occurs in Australia. So I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So they said basically the bottom line is do not try to import those animals under either
What?
name. Yeah.
Until they can catch up and
I
or
guess,
indefinitely.
I don't know. I mean, I'm
Wow.
assuming that if the CITES database updates, then it'll be okay. But in order for CITES to update, they have to, it has to be like on the agenda at one of those COP meetings. They have to vote on it. And those COP meetings are like once a year or so like you're talking about this huge procedure in order to get something added or updated. And so I don't know when that'll happen or if it'll happen or whatever. So
So
I don't
basically, I'm
need any
never getting a
more.
pair of these, huh?
Well, I don't need any more because I have plenty enough for my breeding stock. I now have 2.5, all
Okay.
wild caught, and I have babies that I've produced already. So I have enough to start the whole thing in the hobby easily with many, diverse bloodlines. And I have captive bred babies that are no longer babies. And so like, I'm good. I actually don't need any more. Um, Probably from the notoriety that I've given those animals on my YouTube channel is what has driven the prices up on those in Indonesia. They're super expensive right now in Indonesia. They're what they call a rare item.
Mm.
So the prices are crazy right now. So I don't need any more. I'm good. And I can't get any more anyway, not in the near future. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It 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 inadvertently it helps me because unless like if somebody does try to import those and the inspector isn't paying like really close attention to paperwork, I suppose they could clear and come in, but there's a huge chance that they won't clear because they're like what happens is when you're doing the electronic declaration, you type in the genus and the species, and then it auto populates with the little code that indicates that that's what that species is. But if you type in the genus and the species and nothing comes up, it comes up as 4 asterisks on the electronic declaration. And when the inspector is looking through the declaration and they see the 4 asterisks, automatically they're going to go right and start searching the database. Why is this CITES species, like what is this, why isn't it recognized in the database? And then that's when you're looking at having animals seized or whatever the case may be. So it's good for me, I guess, in a way. I mean, if you really want to look at it, I got 2.5,
Yeah.
so I'm good. And my animals came in as maculosa, most of them before.
Yeah.
And you know, I and
So let
I have one animal that came in as papuensis also. It's
let me
fine.
ask you this: do you
Yeah.
think that they should change it to where maculosa can be imported from places other than Australia, or do you think that they should just update it and say papuensis in there? And they are the same genetically, right? They're the same snake. They're not. They don't. It's not like a different type of spotted python.
So the DNA is what justifies it being its own species. The DNA is different enough between maculosa and papuensis that papuensis was given its own name.
Interesting.
So the DNA is that's the proof. Like you can't argue with the science part of it with the DNA. But to answer your question about the maculosa stuff, it it is listed as maculosa with the origin of Australia and Indonesia. It's
Mm,
already listed that way. But until the CITES database gives Antaresia papuensis its own standalone species listing in the system, that's the only thing that will make it okay to bring those in.
wow.
But they're super rare anyway. They're not something that you can just go, yeah, let me take a 10 lot or let me take a 20 lot. No, not even close. Very, very rare, very hard to get.
Do you mind if I ask what you're getting for them right now for a
Um,
pair?
I'm selling them 4,000 a pair.
Holy smokes. All right. So I couldn't get those anyway.
It's funny because what I'm selling them at for captive bred at 4,000 a pair, the price in Indonesia has exceeded that.
Wow.
So, if you happen to see, well, I don't know, maybe you won't, or maybe somebody will get lucky and get one through the system or whatever. But, you would probably see a wild caught one going for more than that, in Florida or whoever's importing or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. But,
So
yeah.
hopefully people will keep those pure, right? And keep them separate and not cross them with maculosa.
I had one person, I don't know who it was, but when I finally did my first video where I finally got them bred and produced the first babies, and I did have somebody say, "Wow, now I can freshen up my Australian spotted pythons," and it's like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I think it's just a case of people just not understanding things, but um so far the people that are picking them up from me are like they 100% realize how special they are, that, and visually they're not the same anyway. They're very different.
How
Looks
are
like
they different?
it almost looks like a granite spotted, except they're
Mm.
all the ones from Papua are like that. They're all
Wow.
the spots are very fractured and broken up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very cool. But about the same size?
I think a little smaller.
A little smaller.
A little
Okay.
smaller, yeah.
So you've got like your Cape Yorks and then your maculosa and then your papuensis as far as size goes.
I think so. Yeah. I never
Interesting.
kept any of the other stuff. It's just like this wasn't a so Mark O'Shea, right? He's the one that stumbled onto the very first one while he was filming one of his Mark O'Shea's big adventure programs in
Do you know what year that was?
2000.
Okay.
So when I first saw it, because I used to watch his programs, that it's stuck in my brain. I'm like, wow, that is so cool. There's a spotted python in Papua, but I hadn't even set foot in Southeast Asia yet. It would still be another 3 years before I'd even travel over there. But I make these mental notes, knowing that this stuff, what's out there. And then as I found my way into Indonesia, talking to one of the big exporters, that's when I sprang it on him. I'm like, hey, have you ever seen any of those spotted pythons from Papua? And then I started asking about it from there. And then he got he did manage to get 3 at some point, and all 3 died before he could export them to me.
Mm.
I don't know why. I never saw them, so I don't know if they came in already compromised or what it was. And then a couple years later, because I was really excited about getting them, but I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything to anybody. And then a couple years later, he got another 3, and those I got out of his hands like as fast as I could. I got him over here, and so I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I had a lot of experience, but it wasn't like, oh, I've acclimated, 103 of these so far. Nah, it was like my first time, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And plus, look at everybody else in the hobby as well. They're not acclimating wild-caught Antaresia from Australia. They're all captive bred, like many, many generations. So I was like, man, I hope these things start feeding, straight away and whatever. And I actually it was a baby, it was a female hatchling, and then it was like a subadult male and an adult female. The adult female didn't feed for 8 months. And so I'm
Whoa.
sitting here going, do I force feed it? Like, what should I do? And I remember the male had lots of skin bumps, like parasite bumps, a lot of them. But experience has taught me that those parasites don't live forever under the skin. It's like an intermediary stage where their life cycle depends on a predator consuming them. And then that's what completes the life cycle, because then the parasites find their way into the gut of a different animal, you know. But anyway,
So wait a minute. They're just hanging out on this little snake, waiting for that little snake to be eaten by a bigger predator.
yeah,
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah. So they don't feed off the snake. You know, they're not like taking their toll on the animal really.
They're just hanging out.
They're just there, but they don't live forever. You know, they have a lifespan, and if they don't get if they don't find their way to complete their life cycle in certain amount of time, which I don't know how long that is, but I'm going to assume that it's probably like a year or so or something like that, that they just die, and then the body that they're in just gets rid of it. You know, it just
Yeah.
breaks it down. So I only have one male out of those three. Do I treat it somehow for like how I can't you can't treat those really with meds. You have to manually remove them from the skin. And there were a lot of them, like a lot of them. And so I'm thinking that's going to cause a lot of stress on this snake if I start manually removing, you know, each one of these little parasites. So I decided not to, because I didn't want to risk pushing that male over the edge and losing my male, because I didn't know if I'd get any more or anything. So, and then the female didn't eat. So I moved the female to a small tub. I had her in like a CB80, and I moved her at some point to a sweater box, and somehow that triggered her to start feeding just by moving her to like a really small tub. So that got her eating. So then she never stopped from there. And then the male was eating, and then at some point all those little parasite bumps were gone, and he was fine. And so those, you know, that male and that female was the first pair that I was able to breed. And then the second female grew up into an adult, and then I also got her bred. And then now, of course, I have like multiple animals that I'm working with. So, yeah, I didn't want to ruin my shot at like, you know, bringing this new species in. Well, it wasn't a new species then, but it was just a locality. But I didn't want to lose my shot at, you know, I didn't want to lose the opportunity. I didn't want the hobby to lose the opportunity also to have like this brand new thing and all that. So, no, it was really cool. I'm really proud, you know, that I made it happen. And I think if I didn't have the experience, I probably would have pushed both of those animals over the edge. I probably would have been force feeding that female, you know, and that could have done her in, and you know, I could have been poking holes in that male to remove all these little parasites and stuff. So I'm just glad that, you know, my intuition kind of guided me in the right direction. So salvaged all those guys. Yeah.
Wow. And so do you still have those original animals?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
They both reproduced for me this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you have like F1s and F2s, or are you just still producing?
No F2s yet. No F2s yet, but almost. And I'm thinking about putting the F1s into wild caught to really diversify things rather than keeping everything like kind of closed. You know, if I breed, because at this point they're all sharing. Well, up until last year, they were sharing only one male. So they were like sort of related, right? Because they got the same father. Yeah. So I thought, nah, you know what? I think the direction that I want to go at this point is to like breed one of the F1s back to a fresh wild caught that hasn't reproduced in my collection yet, to really kind of keep things fresh.
Yeah.
So,
boy, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool. Yeah, I'm really happy about it. And then this latest thing that happened with Fish and Wildlife it was pretty wild. I'm gonna put a video out at some point, you know, kind of explaining some of the stuff, politely explaining, and not dogging on anybody, not criticizing anybody, but just kind of stating like this is the current status of what's going on with these animals.
Yeah, it's kind of that has to be a little frustrating, but at the same time, it brings all the more value to your animals.
That's the way I'm looking at it. But I've been in situations like this before with other species. So it's not, all it is just, it just reinforces my ability to sort of do their job before they do it, look for problems. I knew that potentially this was going to be an issue, but I just kept my mouth shut because I don't know, sometimes things just go through also, so I didn't want to bring it to their attention. And yeah, I find myself more and more sort of doing their job before they do it,
Mm,
going through and double checking permits and names and databases and all these things. But it also, from this latest thing, kind of makes things even more confusing to me because, like, I got a copy of the email from their headquarters. So I know that the field offices use Species Plus. That's what they refer for the database that they refer to double check all this nomenclature, all this taxonomy. But then in the email that came from the headquarters, they said that they verify against the reptile
mm,
database.com or whatever, and I use both. The reptile database is way more up to date. It's way more accurate. They don't waste any time updating it, probably because they don't have to go through this bureaucracy of bringing up something in a meeting or whatever. They just see the paper and it's peer reviewed and it's accepted and it's valid, and they just go into their system and then they just update the name and put the year. And
yeah.
so their database is very, very up to date. So I like to use that to keep myself accurate when I'm doing a YouTube video, for example, and I'm spewing like a scientific name. I want to be using the latest name, the most accurate, accepted one. But then the other database is the one that the field offices are using, and it's this huge procedure, and they have to vote and all this other stuff. So it's like, yeah, no wonder all that stuff is not up to date.
Yeah. So how's it been getting the F1s started? Like was it relatively
Mostly
easy?
okay, mostly
Okay.
okay, but there's always a small percentage that are difficult. So, and I found that a couple of times in the past, they're very small. They're like little tiny snakes, right? So, um, like assist feeding a problem feeder with like a mouse tail segment can be enough to get them to feed the next time, just by giving them something in their stomach that's easy like that. That has been the case most of the time. But I also have been having to do um, different types of scenting. Some, like in the beginning, some of them will take unscented pinkies right away. Some I have to use fish, which also makes no sense to me. But fish,
Interesting.
there's no fish where they come from. They're like very, very inland. But I'll scent with fish. Try that. I'll scent with gecko, and then I also scent with bird stuff sometimes. And I've found that a lot of different ones will have their own preference, but in time they'll lose it and they'll just start feeding really well.
Mm. And
Yeah.
what's their preferred, like what's your go-to like default for scenting? Is it like out of those three, which one's the one that gets them most of the time?
Fish,
And what kind of fish are you using to
like
scent?
I just pop a can of regular old tuna fish and
Okay.
and uh, dip it. Yeah,
That's
or
so weird.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. Also, it's not even a. It's from even the fish itself is an ocean fish,
Yeah.
but I know that it smells real. It's very strong smell. So, um, but
Wow.
I just you know that was a last resort the first time I was dealing with it, and I found that was actually really really the winner.
Mm.
So yeah, because usually the thing it doesn't make sense. So why would I go to that first?
Yeah. Do you ever just give them like morning geckos or crested geckos
I
to get
haven't
them
had
started?
to. No, I haven't
Okay.
had to yet. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Interesting. Huh. Tuna fish.
yeah. It works on a lot of snakes, actually. Um, Drymarchon, lot of the picky eaters. For some reason, that works really well sometimes.
Wow. Yeah, the picky eaters that end up being voracious feeders as they go on
Yeah,
in life.
yeah, exactly.
They eat everything.
Yep, exactly.
Wow. That's yeah, because I'm always trying to think of what my game plan, what my strategy is going to be when I produce spotted pythons, because I know it's, I'm hoping it'll be mostly easy, but you know. Um when at what age are you reproducing the spotted pythons?
I don't know because everything so far that's produced for me was wild caught,
Okay.
so I don't have an age. But but I can give like an approximate. The first ones that I got were in 2019, I believe, and that female produced for the first time in 2024, last year, so 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so is that what you're going to give the F1s? You going to give them like 5 years before you attempt it? Or do you
No,
think it
just
might be
based on
sooner?
size. Just based on size. Whatever I feel is, looks like it could go, then they'll get
Okay.
paired. Yeah.
And are you
They're not
just,
quite there yet.
do you just go off a look, or are you going to go off of like weight? Are you weighing them and getting a
No.
measurement?
I've never I never got into weighing stuff. I just kind of, like for me, common sense kind of tells me that there's no scales in the jungle. There's no, like, it's just animals mate. And when they are sexually reproductive, then they produce,
Hmm.
and if they're not, then they don't. And so I don't really buy into so much where it's like it's a particular amount of years or if it's a particular gram weight or whatever it is. I just look at them and see, and I palpate for follicles, the females, on all species of snakes, and I've gotten really really good at it. And so um, like if I look and I see a female that's like a little bit distended, or they're maybe refused food, or sitting upside down, because especially Antaresia, a lot of times they like to sit upside down with their belly up. And if I start seeing that more often or whatever, um, then I'll just palpate for follicles. If I feel follicles, then I know that snake is going into like a reproductive state, and
Hmm.
it's going to get paired. And I do that with all my snakes, boiga, colubrids, pythons. It doesn't matter what it is. I got really good at it, and I count how many follicles. I write it down. I put it on the cage. The female this date, 8 follicles or whatever, and then it's a little game that I play where it's like I like to see if I get the numbers right, and more often than not, I get the numbers right. Yeah,
Wow.
I've gotten really good at it. So
So with that female that you got in 2019, were you pairing her up for like over the course of a couple seasons before she actually ovulated?
so I got those animals, then I retired, and then I moved to
Oh,
Thailand. And so I was instructing my people here to pair. And so basically I just had those animals being paired in between meals. So just
wow.
only separated to feed, and then basically full time together. Because at that time I just had the 3, and one was a baby, so that one wasn't in the mix. So I just had the one pair.
Hmm.
So the only way that I could figure to do it where I didn't miss any windows was just to keep those animals paired as much as possible. If they're in a shed cycle, then don't bother. And if you're feeding, separate. And then outside of that, always just keep putting them together. And so,
Wow.
yeah, they're very hard to visually tell male from female when they're the same size. They don't show, like, visually, it's just not apparent which ones are male and which ones are female. So it was easier this past season, because I had 2.2 and all
Hmm.
were adults. So it was easy for me to just say, okay, these 2 in this cage, pair those only. Just those two, pair them nonstop. And these other two, you pair those to each others, but you do not mix them, because once you mix them, I know that it's going to be very difficult to tell where the male went. You could be accidentally pairing two males and two females at that point if you mix them up, right? So, but now it's going to be a little bit tricky because now there's 2.5. So I'm going to have to like take photos, like clear photos of like a head pattern or something, and hopefully there's something on there that identifies the males,
Wow.
like two spots that form together or whatever. Anything that's in the pattern that is permanent, of course, because the pattern is permanent. So I have to do like an hopefully there's like a little smiley face or a heart or something, like something like that I can identify the two males.
Wow.
So it'll get a little challenging
That's
because
wild that
I'm not
they're,
here.
yeah. That makes it so much worse. It's
Yeah.
wild that they're so close in size.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Man, that's super cool. I can't wait to see them, become more common in the hobby. That'll be cool as the years go on.
Yeah. Nobody has any yet. Um, I have a deposit for one pair. They will go. They will go to that person next month, and then and I have a waiting list. Believe it or not, I have a waiting list about, I think, at least about 10 names, and so
Wow.
I'll have to start going down the waiting list. These aren't. I'm not selling any of this year's animals because they only hatched in May and June, and so I I don't know. I like to, for those guys, especially because the price tag. Um, I'm like feeling more comfortable selling yearling animals, um, because it's a higher price tag, and animals that are 1 year old, like they're solid, they're good.
Yeah.
So I just have more confidence like that. I'm a little bit, the I know the price is high for most people, and so when you're charging prices like that, I try to make sure, like extra sure, that the animals are good. And I'm
Yeah.
not like I'm not desperate for the money. I'd rather just make sure that people are getting good animals. So it's okay. Like if the babies that hatched out this year, I probably won't sell them until next year, and then there'll be other yearlings available next year, and I'll just work down my list. And there's some overseas people, some really hardcore like German collectors that have all the Antaresia except for those, or whatever the case is, and they really want to buy some but cannot because
Mm.
of what's going on right now. Fish and Wildlife, if they won't let them in, they also aren't going to let them out.
Oh, so once they're here, they're here.
Yeah, for now. At some
Yeah.
point, things have to be updated, but yeah. Oh, and
Wow.
also because we're kind of doing a deep dive on the Antaresia, um, I reached out to the author of the paper, um, and so I sent him an email not too long ago, maybe like 2-3 months ago, and kind of I introduced myself, told him who I am, what I do, and that I have the animal that you described. I have those in my possession. And he was kind of shocked because he wasn't aware. When you're on YouTube and you're dropping videos, I've been dropping videos every week for more than 5 years straight without missing a beat. And you just kind of assume that when you drop a video that the whole world is seeing it, and that's
Yeah.
like not the case. It's a big world. And so I think he'd never heard of me. I have multiple videos on Antaresia, and even one where I interviewed Mark O'Shea, and he told me the story and all that, and the whole background on it. And so, but this guy didn't watch it or whatever. And then I told him, and he was super interested. He said there's a second paper coming out actually, that he's co-authoring with Daniel Natouche, which delves deeper into the DNA results,
Mm.
on Papuensis. But so he said, look for that. It's coming out soon. So I was like, okay, cool. And he wants samples. He wants skin samples of my animals, as long as I have the locality data. As long as I have locality data and the animals are legal with CITES paperwork, then those samples are viable and useful to science. But if you don't have the CITES paperwork and you don't know where they came from, reliably where they came from, then it's useless for science. And
Mhm.
so he he mentioned me and my email to Daniel Natouche, and then Daniel Natouche provided him all kinds of information, and I'm assuming he basically kind of said, "No, Dan's legit. Like, you know, his locality info and everything, you know, it's reliable," and uh, and so we're going to be working together. Just for me providing some skin samples because I do have locality data on my animals, so and they're all legal, of course, with paperwork. So so we'll be working, you know, we'll be working together a little bit just to further his, you know, just to compound and add more data to his paper and his work and all that. So that was kind of cool. And he doesn't know about the CITES thing, and he doesn't know about the Fish and Wildlife thing or anything like that. So yeah, but I'm going to tell him at some point. I'm just, you know, but it doesn't really pertain so much to him. Um, CITES will be updated at some point, I'm sure.
So you're going to be sending him shed skins?
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I mean, I really, I need to go and watch your videos, on those because I think it's been brought up on this podcast numerous times. You know, those spotted pythons, and I'm very curious and interested in them. Do you have goals for, you know, going out on your adventures and dealing with wildlife? Like, do you have animals that you target when you go out and you're looking around, or like, would you, you know, are you going to go out and like target the spotted pythons in Papua?
I'm not sure. I would like to. I think it would be pretty amazing from a YouTube standpoint of like filming something like that. Of course, if I went and I did it, I would film it, but it's not something that you know, I'm not going to have a red line sponsor. I'm not gonna get Ship Your Reptiles. I'm not gonna get Zoo Med. I'm not gonna get Rainbow Mealworms. Like all these sponsors aren't gonna come to me and like and offer me sponsorship money to get me to go do those trips. So all the stuff that we do, it's just self-funded.
Yeah.
So if we find ourselves in Merauke and near the areas that those come from, that would be awesome to go just from a personal standpoint and be able to like go, you know, run around and see if we could find some. I think that would be really cool. It'd be an awesome video, but it would be an awesome video for a very limited amount of viewers because
Yeah,
people just
it's a little brown snake.
yeah, but not only that, but I think YouTube is weird. And the hobby is also a bit strange to me because for me coming up, if I was able to click on a video and watch somebody in the natural habitat of a species that I'm interested in, I would be sucking that up. I would be eating that up. I'd be looking at the trees, the you know, and we do like temperature and humidity. We do all those things when we go. Lately, anyway, we implemented that, and I would have loved that when I was coming up. But to me, I feel like people would rather watch like a Canova video in a big, beautiful, state of the art facility with walls and drawers and tubs and just looking at animals. And I think it's because they feel like that is a goal that they have a shot at attaining. Like they could make a like a little like a miniature room, like a room that's like a miniature facility full of freedom breeders and whatever, and like they could probably do something like that. But I feel like to most people, they would never imagine themselves flying halfway across the world and landing in Papua and like hiring, you know, native people and translators and guides and going through all this stuff and getting them, you know, getting out into the field and going to these crazy places and doing stuff like that. you can see by the amount of people that watch those types of videos it pales in comparison to when you put out a video from your house and you're showing something that is more attainable to the average person. Those videos will get watched. People will be like, oh yeah, he's got animal plastics cages and and he's using this size tubs and all that. Like, people like to watch that way more than, watching a guy really push the limits and push the boundaries and get out to like far out and do all that stuff. We went to Biak to see green tree pythons in the wild. That was like, to me, that was amazing. That was like the most incredible thing. But dude, a lot of people watch that video. No, not really, but they'll watch, they'll watch a green tree python breeder in the US go through, do like a collection tour or something. That they love that. But
it's so weird.
It is. It's really weird. It's kind of backwards to me. So I go into this knowing those things. So if you ever see me travel somewhere, I'm just going on my own and it's out of pocket because I already know that the views are going to suck and I'm not going to see any return. Like, it's not even going to pay for like one day of food on a trip, the amount of money that I would get from YouTube. And I'm not going to get any sponsors. People aren't going to get behind it. It's just the way it is. It's a crazy thing. But we do have lots of travel plans always, every year. We have plans. I already have, I have plans to go to Maluku, probably like October, November. We have a project out there, and there, I am aware and have seen already some animals that are not in the hobby, that are kind of brand new and could be new species of pythons and things out there. So, we'll be working on all those things and documenting as much as we can. Sometimes we don't show everything that we see because we don't want people stepping in our way, because we're not just out there documenting, but we're also trying to acquire animals and even for scientific purposes sometimes, because we might acquire animals, something that like a passion project, but at the same time, I want to submit sheds. I want to submit some scale samples and do some DNA. And is this a new species, or could it be a subspecies, or is this, like those types of things. And so I don't always kind of like divulge everything that everything that I see and what I'm doing. Sometimes I gotta keep some stuff a bit secret because I'm working on projects and things as well. So, but that, to answer your question, like that trip to Maluku is partly because we are targeting something that's new, that's not in the hobby, that I've already seen and held and videoed, but I chose to omit it from the videos that we were filming on location at the time because I didn't want to set off all the alarms and have, all these local people going out there trying to snatch these animals and doing all this stuff. So
what are they?
It's mostly scrub python stuff. And there's other pythons too, that need some work as well. Like, Liosis, all the Maclots and Savus and Dunny and all those things. There's a lot of mystery surrounding those as well. But there's a lot of scrub python stuff that I'm onto that I want to kind of investigate further. Locality stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so. I have some Timor locality Maclots. Well, I have a male and I'm working on getting a female. So I'm from Dennis McNamara, and yeah, they're so cool. But yeah, it's like the localities with those, it seems like it's so untapped. And isn't there potentially like another locality of Timor python, but it doesn't even look like a Timor python. It doesn't look anything like what I have. I got I have a reverse trio that I got from Ryan Young. They're all F1, but I've seen some pictures of these animals, and it's like, that doesn't look like a Timor python at all. Like, its head structure is so different.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation in those. There's a lot. I've had a few come through here the last 2 years, and there's a lot of variation. And I try to get locality information as much as I can. So like we have some rote and then Timors are the ones that we see more. But there's other stuff out there. I know there is. There's a lot of islands. It just takes, you know, it's not that people aren't going there, but they might be going there for bird watching.
Mm-hmm.
For real, like, because that's a big thing, right? So bird watchers sometimes pop up some photos of some crazy reptiles just because while they're standing there staring up, they see something crawling in the leaf litter at their feet or whatever, and so sometimes they see some cool stuff, or it could be scuba divers that are going to these places. But it takes reptile people to go to these places to actually recognize what they're looking at, and then like get onto some of that crazy stuff. Indonesia is a really diverse, wild place.
Mm. When you
Just
go
like
there, oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying, like just the province of Maluku alone is crazy because it encompasses so many other islands like Aru, Tanimbar, Kai, and of course Ambon and all the normal Maluku stuff, and Halmahera and Morotai and Ternate and all these other islands. Like that's all encompassed by Maluku. Like that's all within the Maluku province. And so like that's crazy. Just that one province by itself has so much work that could be done studying all those different islands. And it's weird. Like you have the Malucan scrub, which is Clestelepes, but then like a 1 hour flight to the east, and then you have it's a amethystina from like Kai Island that looks very, very, it looks more like a Clestelepes than it does like a regular scrub python, but let's do some work and let's see where it falls, because it might be Clestelepes that comes from Kai, because it looks very, very similar. Sometimes it's very hard to tell them apart. I have some here, and they look really, really similar. But and then in Tanimbar with the Nauta, with all the Tanimbar scrub pythons, and that's just scrub pythons, But there's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of islands and endemics and all these things. And I think with more exploration and more visits for reptile people, visiting more of these remote islands and all this stuff, I think there's more, like Savu Island pythons, and then Dunny and all the others. And it's like, there's got to be more than just those,
Oh, yeah.
But I think it all boils down to DNA these days.
Yeah.
Because when they were describing animals before, there was no DNA, but now we have that as a tool. And it's hard to argue against it. DNA kind of speaks for itself. So,
well, and retics as well, right? I mean, there's so many localities with retics, and yeah, it's crazy. And it's great that, that you're out there, and it's kind of a passion of yours, right? Is doing the traveling and the adventuring and all that. So it's like a perfect combination of hobbies.
Yeah. And I'm a scuba diver too. I hold an advanced certification. And so, one of my really, really close friends from Indonesia, her husband is a dive master, a dive instructor. And so if you think that we go to these places and don't do diving, you'd be wrong. So if we, like my trip that I want to do coming soon, when we boogie out of here and head back over there, we need to go to Halmahera to visit with a partner there. And then from there, we're going to go to Ambon, and we want to explore Saram in a little bit and see what's up with Clestelepes there. And then we're going to choose to go to either Tannenbar, Kai, or Aru, because you can't just island hop. You have to you fly from Ambon to one of those islands, but then if you want to go to another island, if you don't take a boat or the ferry schedule doesn't suit you, you have to go back to Ambon and then fly again back out to another island. So it takes quite a lot of time and a lot of money.
Mm.
Also, it's pretty expensive when you start adding up all this stuff. And I always fly my people with me too, because those are my interpreters and the people that arrange, my partners and people that arrange, guides, local guides and all those things. So those are all really important too. It's not something where you can just it's not like just going to Hawaii or going to even Bali or something. You need to have people in place to do this stuff. And you have to have the right people also. A lot of times reptile people that, like you see him on social media and you're like, oh, there's a reptile guy and he's going there all the time. And sometimes their background isn't what you think, and you might be associating yourself with the wrong person for the wrong reason. So
Mm.
um, I don't like to do that. I like to just go all like local people, and I put all my faith into my like long time, like really close friends. And so if we go to Tannenbar, I guarantee you we're going to scuba dive in Tannenbar. So, and then at night we're going to be out like with some local collectors or whatever, and we're going to see what we can see for Nauta. So those are the kind of things that we get up to,
Wow. And
Yeah.
how common are I'm assuming that when you're going into these situations, do you have local guides that are going to be able to take you to the animals that you want to see, so you have like a guaranteed success?
Yeah, because most of the time we're dealing with hunters or we're dealing with actual reptile trappers that are involved in the industry that are actually out, like that's what they do, is they collect reptiles. Or sometimes they're hunters and also they collect reptiles,
Hmm.
hunting from the position of getting food, like bushmeat and like hunting for food and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so, and the people like that particular trip, we're bringing our partner that's a licensed reptile trader. So we're not even like at risk of being, like stopped by the authorities and saying, "What are you guys doing? You've got a snake in a bag and you've got one in your hand and you're taking photos. Like, what's this all about?" And then it's like, well, no, here, this is this guy, this my friend. He's the licensed collector, and
Yeah.
then it's okay. But always like local, like my friends aren't necessarily the local guide. Like they're the Indonesian guide or the Papuan guide, but they're not the local guide, because we also need to hire local guides, the
Wow.
actual local people. And there's a lot of tribal lands too, especially in Papua. So you need to you need to reach out ahead of time, or even if you can reach them like weeks ahead of time is great, but you need to get permission from sometimes the lead, like the tribal leaders, and then they always want to send you out with, like, they'll give you like their best hunter or whatever, and then you just tell them, I bring my iPhone. I'll have before I go, I'll get all the photographs of all the things that are on my target list. And then we'll have a little sit down through an interpreter. I'll hold up my snake hook. I've done this before in my videos, I'll hold up my grabber and I'll hold up my snake hook, and I'll say through the interpreter, I'll tell them, I'll say, you don't have to touch any snakes, because most of them are afraid, and it's like, you just point at it. You're probably going to see me running at a snake and grabbing snakes. I know what I'm reaching for. If it's dangerous, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to use these tools. But if it's something that's non-venomous or whatever, I'm probably going to just grab it with my hands. Don't freak out. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. You're not going to, like, we're not going to make the news, by having, foreigner grab snake in this village and dies or whatever. Like, it's like, this is what we do, and so I always have to have like a briefing with everybody, and most of them are like, shit, they're like, oh, ah, and I show them photos on my phone, of some snakes, and some will be like, they'll say, Patola, whatever, and they'll say like the local name, and then sometimes some people get the shakes just from seeing a photo on my phone. So you can see like there's the taboo, also for some people are very superstitious. So, but you wouldn't be able to do that if you just, you and your girlfriend or whatever just flew to wherever and just jump off a plane and you think you're going to get all that done. And you might if you're super lucky, but probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Do you
So
ever have any close calls with any venomous animals or anything?
no, I don't think so. I try to be as careful as possible. And my wife, she always travels with me, and usually she's the camera person. And so she always makes sure, like she'll yell at me and make sure that yeah, like don't get so close, or don't do this and don't do that. And so she's always pretty paranoid about stuff like that.
Yeah. And what about when you're scuba diving? Is that generally, I mean, is that pretty risky?
No, I don't think so. There's not any like there's not really too much like dangerous stuff going on, but of course there always can be accidents. So we have to rely on our dive computers, and usually I'm diving with my friend that's a dive master, dive instructor, so he's very like safety conscious and all that. So we have to be we have to be a little careful, of course. When you're in a remote area, you don't want something bad to happen, so we try not to like push the limits of things. But stuff can always happen, even if it's just dehydration or stomach bugs, getting bad food and those sorts of things.
Oh
So
man, yeah. Have you
yeah.
ever picked up any parasites or anything on these adventures?
Yeah, of course. I had a colonoscopy. You're too young to experience those, but you will later in life. But yeah, it's like 50 that's the gift you get at age 50. You get to go get colonoscopies. But I had
Yay.
my first one done 3 years ago, and they actually did find a worm in me.
What?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I did? I flageled myself. I'm not
Really?
joking. I'm not joking. I I was flying back to Thailand actually shortly after the results came from the doctor, and I got the diagnosis of what kind of worm it was. When I
Yeah.
was coming out of anesthesia, the doctor was already telling me, "We found a worm, we found a third." Yeah, so I was like, "What?" She goes, "You're the first one." So, so I was like, "My gosh." But
That's hilarious.
yeah, and then I didn't get the word back on what type of worm it was. It took some weeks to get the diagnosis of what to treat it with or whatever. And so I was in Thailand already because I was flying back, and then um, I flagelled myself. I went to the pharmacy and got Flagyl and took care of it. And I have another colonoscopy coming up next week, actually. But my wife and I, it's kind of funny, but in Asia, it's normal. Everybody, especially living like in the boonies, in the village and stuff like that, um, everybody treats themselves normally. Not everybody, but it's normal. At least once a year, if not once every 6 months, you do one dose of Flagyl just as a
Really?
precaution. Yeah, just to kind of like clear yourself. And so ever since then, we do it every once in a while. It's like, well, we've had a bunch of sushi lately, and yeah, you know what? It's time. Let's do it. It's just a one time dose.
So do you think that came from handling animals, or do you
I
think it
don't
came
think
from
so. I
sushi?
think it was just from eating some, you know, you can get it from anything. You could eat a like an improperly washed piece of lettuce in your salad, and there could be a something in there. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not real into eating like raw meat or anything, but of course I do like sushi. But I don't know. It could have came from anywhere, but I don't know, just had one. It's not like I didn't have like a softball sized ball of worms or anything. It was just
Oof.
one. It was
What
just one.
what kind of worm was it? Do you know?
I don't. They just said it was some kind of roundworm. So
Wow,
I knew that I could just yeah. And
dude,
I
that's
and I told
wild.
I have a new doctor that's doing it next week, and of course that was like part of my history, so I had to tell him. I'm like, because on the screening thing that you fill out, it says, "Have you ever had a colonoscopy?" Yes. What was the finding? And then so I had to put parasite, and then so we're doing the consultation, and he's like, "So tell me about this parasite." I'm like, I don't think you'll find any this time. I'm doing flagell on the regular, so it should be okay.
So wait a minute. Did you treat yourself? Did you flagell yourself here or over there?
Over there, because you can just go to the pharmacy and buy whatever you want. So
Here you can't get flagell for yourself.
no, I was already over there when I got the diagnosis, but they would have to prescribe it to you. But no, you can get it too.
Wow. I kind of want to take flagell now. I don't know. I live in Florida, I live
Yeah,
in
right.
Florida. I eat kind of sketchy sushi sometimes. Maybe I should take some flagell.
Yeah, gas station sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just being here in Florida, you got to figure our parasite load's got to be higher than other places.
Yeah, right.
So, oh man, that is wild. Man, did you feel a difference like after you took the flagell? Like, oh,
no, I had no idea. I had no idea there was one in there, and yeah. But some
man.
people, like my wife has told me stories about her brothers and growing up and all that, like playing tug of war with tapeworms, like
Oh
after
God.
after they go to the bathroom and they're like, what is that hanging out,
Oh
and
no.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh
But of course, like for them in that scenario, they love raw beef. There's a Thai dish that's like super spicy and it's just raw minced beef.
no.
Yeah, spiced up with like all kinds of, it's Thai. Of course, you can imagine how spicy it is, but that's a really good way to get parasites for them. I don't eat that. I know better than that.
Dude, fuck that. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, we just went and had burgers the other night, and I told the waitress, I'm like, I don't want to see any pink in there. There's
Right.
I'm sorry, but yeah, we're not playing that game.
Right.
Oh man, that's terrible. Tug of war with a tapeworm. What a way to
Yeah.
put it, too.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we talked about the spotted pythons. What are some other species that you're like really passionate about? What are some other species that you keep that you're just like really you couldn't imagine your collection without them?
The collection here, we do have a couple nice locality Macklot's pythons. We have some really real beautiful scrub pythons here that I held back from 2 years ago, and also from last year, and also from this year. So we have some really nice python stuff. And then in our facility in Malaysia, we have a lot of really, really crazy boiga and colubrids and stuff like that. And the laws in Malaysia are a little bit restrictive, especially right now at this moment. They're going through some strange things. And so we're trying to work with animals that are not locally protected more so. So the one thing that checks all the boxes and falls in line with my interests and also is really easy for the laws for export and those sorts of things are beauty rat snakes. And so we are onto a bunch of brand new locality beauty rat snakes that we're working on, both acquiring and breeding. And so we'll be showing more of those down the road as we get like breeding sets together. I don't want to say colonies because a lot of that stuff's really rare and hard to get. But as when we start putting together like pairs and trios of these different things, and that'll be some new stuff that will start coming out. Anything that's new to me is exciting. Anything that's not in the hobby is exciting. It's a very big blip on my radar whenever I come across things that aren't in the hobby. But of
Mhm.
course, I don't have the luxury of starting with captive bred. So all that stuff is always going to be square one wild caught stuff that I have to figure out. And so, but I like that. I really enjoy it. I, I don't want this to come off wrong, but when I see something cool that's captive bred, it loses some some of the special bit about it because somebody already did it,
Mhm.
and like I'm buying the animals that they already bred. And for me, I kind of like, I want to be the guy to breed those, you know, like I want that to be my feather in my cap. And
Yeah.
so a lot of my collection kind of mirrors that. So not that I'm all like stuck up and like egotistical about it. It's just that I like a challenge, and I want to be, I want to be the one bringing those new animals to the hobby. And
Yeah.
so my entire collection is not like that, but most of it kind of falls along those lines.
That's kind of where your passion lies, is with
Yeah.
the more rare things.
Yeah. And believe it or not, like I was doing really well, coming up with new species every year, at least one new species that's not in the hobby. And I figured at some point I was going to run out. And then now I'm, I'm, I feel like I'm not having a problem coming up with new species every single year.
Hmm.
It just seems like every year that goes by, I am coming on to something new. And I feel like there's kind of no end in sight. And especially right now, there's like a number of projects that are like, there's a lot of projects that I have on my plate right now that are not in the hobby. And those could keep me going. If I just release like one a year, like those could keep me going for a number of years. But while I'm doing this stuff, while I'm over there, while I'm exploring, especially while I'm exploring, that's when I'm finding more and more new things. Because
Mm.
like I said earlier, it takes it takes a reptile guy to go and explore and actually recognize things. Because if it's just a scuba diver that goes to some remote island somewhere for scuba diving, they're not going to recognize that brand new species of gecko that's, crawling in their bungalow or whatever across the ceiling of their room. They're not going to recognize that as something new, but I will.
Yeah.
So that's why all these new things just keep presenting themselves, and I'm just like, my gosh, this is great. This is great. I feel like there's no end in sight for like new species and that sort of thing.
And
And
is that
if you think about it, like for pythons, there really haven't been any new pythons for quite a long time, beyond the Antaresia. Um, but like, I think there's some new stuff out there. I think there's some new stuff coming.
and you think that's mostly like in like scrub pythons?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Maclots as well. I think
Nice.
there's good potential for both of those.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, that's all awesome stuff, man. We can wrap it up now. I wanted to pick your mind a little bit on Ganyasoma as well. You work a lot with them, correct?
Yeah, we were doing quite a lot with Ganyasoma in the Malaysia facility. We had last year a really good year where we overproduced,
Oh
like
wow.
beyond what I could like bring to market. So we started releasing those to our other like wholesale accounts, and we also send shipments sometimes to other importers directly, so it won't go through me. We might be over there, and then like, one of my import customers in the US might say, hey, I'm ready for another shipment of Malaysia, here's my my wish list or whatever. And then so, at that, like last year, like I said, we had a lot of Gonyosoma oxycephalum babies, CB stuff. And so it was like, you know what, I can't, like, is this too much? We got to release some, so it was like, hey, how about some captive bred baby Gonyosoma? Oh yeah, I'll take as many as you can send, and then so we kind of like stepped away from that because, there's like things that are exclusive to DM Exotics. And then at some point when we do too good with it, like we don't, it's too much for us to be dealing with. And then we start releasing it to other importers and even sometimes like on a wholesale level to other people that resell, that might buy from us, on a wholesale level. But yeah, oxycephalum, yes. It was funny too. This year we were lucky enough to get some captive bred Jansenii babies, both the normal phase, the golden black phase, and then the melanistic ones as well, as captive bred, just limited amount of both. And it's like it was weird because I announced it. I have Patreon, and most of my patrons are also my customers. So they're involved in my Patreon so they can get like early offerings and heads up on things that are coming. And so it was really weird because we put it out there for those guys, and people didn't really seem that interested in the Jansenii, either of the color phases. And then the next step was to announce it on our YouTube channel, and then show us like unboxing some and whatever. And then nobody was like really interested in it. And I was like, gosh, that's crazy, because getting captive bred babies of either one are like, that's pretty rare, and the amount of people having success breeding them in the US is also not a ton. And then all of a sudden everybody started fighting over them. And somebody told me that there was a podcast or a Facebook post or something talking about how rare baby Jansenii are, something like that. I didn't see it. I don't know exactly what it was, but it sure stirred up a lot of interest in those. And then now we're pretty much sold out of what we had, like really fast. So I don't know. I always like, and it goes back to the whole YouTube thing. I always feel like I put out a video every week. It's not garbage. I do a lot of editing and try to put all the bells and whistles on it. And I do all the SEO and all the metadata and the tags. And like I feel like we do a really good job with our YouTube. And you think that when you make an announcement, the whole world is onto it, but it's such a big world. The YouTube space is huge, and the word is just getting out just to a very small percentage of hobbyists out there. So it's kind of weird, but we get everything sold. But it, I always think like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to drop this video. People they're going to go crazy. This brand new this and brand new that. And we have just enough people that'll go crazy about it to get those animals, spoken for or whatever. But it doesn't, but then you'll see on Facebook, like a week later, somebody will be like, hey, has anybody ever heard of whatever? And you'll be like, dude, I've done like 10 videos on those already. Like the latest thing, Ben Siegel posted Tropidinophis halmahericus, and everybody's going crazy. This colubrid snake from Halmahera. I've been there. I filmed them. I imported them like 2 years ago already. Did video about it. But this is like brand new to everybody on Facebook. Like, because now they're seeing, what is that? Oh my gosh, I've never seen that before. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, I have 110,000 subscribers. I've dropped this video 2 years ago. I put the Latin name up on my screen, like, but it's just the way it is. Like the word just doesn't get out like that. So it's, it's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
I think the same thing sometimes. I'll think like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the best podcasts I've ever done. And then it just gets like 10% of the views another one will get. And
it's bizarre, man. It's bizarre.
I don't understand that. Yeah. Put so much effort in.
I know. I do the same thing too. It's not slapstick. I see other people's videos and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need some editing programs. You need to take some lessons. You need this, you need that, and then I'm doing these cool intros with music and editing, and I'm doing all these things, and like some videos do really well and some of them just don't do well, but we put the same amount of effort into every one. I
Yeah.
rewatch it. I go through, I watch the video at the end. My wife wants to watch it too. She might pick out some like little error or whatever. Oh yeah, you're right. And then it has to get like the full the approval, and then we have to be proud of it, and then we launch it, and we know it's a good video. We know it's a good product. It's educational. People going to get something out of it. All the info is there, and it's like, wow, crazy.
Yeah, and it is weird. I mean, I've watched a lot of your videos, but I've missed, it seems like, a lot of the ones that like I really want to see, so I'm gonna have to go back and like really dig in and
Yeah.
search through. But I mean, if you're posting every week too.
Yeah, every Saturday morning, man. I'll tell you one thing. I don't want to draw this out. I know you're trying to close it down, but
oh no, I have all the time in the world. I thought maybe you had to get going.
No worries. But like the thing that's really, really interesting to me and makes me really proud is that when you go to Google and you type in certain species, the first like page or two is my content. And I feel like, wow, we're doing a really, really good job. Like if you type in Pataeus carinata, you type in, I don't know, you type in different species that we specialize in. And then we just see pages and pages of us coming up first in the results.
Nice.
And it's like, yes, that is so great. Makes me feel so good because that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's really difficult. But I think what that proves is that we did it first. We did it way early on, like Pataeus carinata again. Some people don't like it when I say this, but we brought that species to the hobby. We're the ones that put that name out there. Where do you think greater keeled rat snake came from? I named it that. That's me. I created that. And so, because it didn't have a common name, so I gave it one, like those sorts of things. And so we were putting out content. We showed the first ones we got. We've done masterclass. We were first ones to breed them and all these different things. And so by us doing all that way back in the very beginning, that's why we're coming up in the search results first.
Yeah.
Reptile, Indonesia reptile farm. That one trips me out because like I think the first like 8 videos or something for the video results, not in YouTube, but if you do Google search, it's us. It's all of our videos that we've done from the farm,
Wow.
And then there'll be like one other one mixed in from somebody else or whatever, but it's us. And so it's cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, your work ethic is that's like the fruit that is being, given to you from that.
Yeah.
Do you do
it's hard
anything
to stand out too. It's hard to stand out now. But because we were doing the YouTube thing quite a long time ago, I think that's why we earned all those higher rankings in the search, I guess. I don't know. I'm not like an SEO wizard or anything like that, but just somehow it just happened like that.
I don't even know what SEO stands for.
It's like keywords and stuff like that. The words that people search for,
okay.
it helps you rank higher. So
I should probably look into that.
Yeah.
Do you guys mess with short-tail pythons at all?
No. I've imported some babies in the past, during the season, like the baby season, and they just don't sell because we're competing with other big breeders, that are breeding they're breeding all these really beautiful morphs, but then their byproduct are the normal ones, which are the same as what we're getting from Indonesia from the farms or whatever. So it's just not something that if I see something new that pops up, I might look into it over there, like a new morph or something like that. But the last few years, because of social media, the local Indonesians, they've priced those special animals like way into outer space. Like like crazy. And then, somebody that's earning like really big money on YouTube or whatever, like an actual YouTuber might actually step up to the plate and pay that crazy amount of money, like
Yeah.
$35,000 for like a kind of a hypo looking scrub python wild caught. It's like, not me. I'm out.
Yeah.
that's no, I'm out. Like that's too risky, and no, and then
What
it's
if,
like that.
what about new localities or like newly collected short-tailed pythons that aren't like commonly seen in the hobby? Is that ever a
Um,
thing?
I don't see stuff like that pretty much like almost at all, because it's usually during the season. There's just tons of babies.
Mm,
Yeah, like from the farms, there's just tons of babies. I
I
don't really
bet.
see anything special in there except for like the occasional like stripy one or whatever. There's beautiful ones mixed in there, but nothing that I would call a morph. And
Yeah.
then the locality stuff, I don't really see so much of that.
Mm, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I wish that there was more exciting stuff going on with short tails like coming out of the wild. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And then in Malaysia, they're protected to the point where you're not even allowed to have one, let
Really?
alone export it or sell it or anything like that. But you're not even allowed to be in possession of one. They have
Wow.
like the highest level of protection in Malaysia.
Really?
Yeah. Otherwise, my gosh. I mean, I'm based in Malaysia. My partner is like probably the only functioning exporter. I could put my hands on probably some crazy locality, Malaysian bloods or whatever, um, but they just can't. They're protected.
Yeah. Do you ever do you ever wish or do, do you ever like switch and go back to hobbyist keeper mentality where you spend more time with the animals, or are you or do you wish you could, or are you happy with the way it is that it meshes with the lifestyle that you want of
I
traveling and adventuring and all
I
that?
tried to find a balance. Like importing is a commercial activity that I was basically forced to swallow just to get the animals that I wanted. So for example, if there's 500 animals in a shipment, there might only be 3 for me. But in order to get those 3, I have to be a commercial importer, and I have to be a distributor and a seller and everything else to get to move those other 497 animals.
Hmm.
So um, so I'm used to that. I'm used to sort of having to accept the fact that I have to be involved in this as a business in order for me to make all these things work. Even now, even from my facility, it's a commercial activity just moving animals from the facility to here. So if it's not enough, I know I have to order other stuff from my partner to make it. I might only have 2 boxes of snakes coming out of the facility, but I know my partner would be much happier doing a commercial export with 6 boxes. So it might be 4 boxes full of stuff that he sells, and then like 2 boxes from the facility.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it. Like just using that as an example, I'm used to it. But I go like I'm in hobbyist mode way more than I'm in like seller mode or whatever. It's just at this point, we're doing some business ventures that have cost quite a bit of money in investment to try to get these new projects off the ground. And so I'm trying to do it with reptile money. I'm trying to use proceeds from selling quality animals in a quality way, but I'm not I'm not doing that to like put a Tesla in my driveway. I'm doing that to pay for this other reptile related project that I'm trying to that I'm investing in for something else or whatever. So um, that's kind of, I look at it like that part time, but then the other part is like I have personal collection both here and in Malaysia. So when I'm in either of those places, I'm 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 drooling over like lots of animals. These are so
Mm.
cool. I'm pulling them out, I'm holding them and all that other stuff. So we're doing, like, for example, I'm doing a video series right now. I'm like 3 videos in, calling it like Rare Reptile series. There'll be like 6 episodes. Today was the 3rd episode that came out. And so each one of those videos, we're highlighting rare reptiles. Some of them are my animals, and some of them are animals that just came over the like last month, um, and are for sale. But people they get it twisted sometimes. They think that everything that I'm showing in my videos is for sale. And it's like, no, like these videos, this is me educating you and showing you like new stuff that you probably haven't seen before. And a lot of these animals are my animals. So just because I'm showing it in a video doesn't mean it's for sale. So that's like more of a hobbyist side, just like showing my personal stuff.
Yeah.
But, dealing with customers is a headache. I mean,
Oh, I can't
just,
imagine on the level that
just,
you're at.
just, it just is, shipping, FedEx, all that, just dealing with FedEx nonsense every week and all this stuff. All that, I would be much happier if I wasn't going through all that. But again, at the same time, then I justify it by, hey, I just dropped 15,000 on this license, on this whatever facility, new cage upgrades in the facility, or whatever the case may be. And then it's like, and I'm gonna put that money back in my account by selling all this stuff that came last month,
Yeah.
and so it it feels better when you can do that. I'd rather like forego on like making money and like buying a new car or something. I would rather just be able to recoup some investment. There's
Yeah.
a lot of investment that goes on with all this stuff. It just is.
How many square feet is your Malaysian facility?
Man, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Um, I have no idea. I don't know.
Do
I'm
you
not
do you
sure.
have like a ballpark idea of how many animals are there?
So last year we loaded up for our summer exports. We had a lot of animals for last summer to come over, and Malaysia closed for some reason. They stopped issuing permits. And
Mm.
so all those animals had to sit until this summer. And then Malaysia reopened, and we got our permits and we got the animals out. And then now our facility is back down to like very reasonable number of animals. So I think there's probably around 100. I think I'm just going to guess. I think there's about 100 animals in there, but they're
Oh,
set up
okay.
real nice. Like every animal has a pretty big cage, the adult stuff, and we have some venomous in there too. So like there'd be like a 4 by like a 4 by 4 by 2 by 4, something like that,
Okay.
like an arboreal type cage, and that will have like one adult viper in it. And
Oh, wow.
we're trying to set it up that way to where we have things spaced out really nice in nice cages. So
That's
the
incredible.
facility is big, but yeah, there's some cool stuff. We again, it goes back. We show it on our YouTube and all that, but it's better now. But like last summer and throughout this past winter, there were probably 500 animals in there because we weren't able to
Oh my gosh.
export the surplus last year. So it all sat. so we're really lucky that we got the permits to get all those animals out. And so now we're like back to like reasonable numbers.
Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine 500 animals. That's crazy.
Yeah, we had like lots of tubs, lots of like makeshift aisles of big tubs, big, like really big, like those Christmas tree tubs or whatever. But we things that were supposed to just be temporary, and waiting for animals to go out, and then it ended up being animals had to sit for a little bit longer.
Wow. So you have like 100 adult animals that are in like large 4-foot enclosures?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so, because we have I think we have 38 glass arboreal terrariums that are
Jeez.
pretty good sized. I think there's 38, and then we have a whole wall of 4-foot stuff, kind of like what's in your background,
Yeah.
and those are all 4 by 2.5 by 2. So
Nice.
like a standard, like an animal plastics cage. And
Yeah.
then we have a whole wall of those that are stacked 3 high. So, yeah, we probably have, I think about a, maybe not 100 of those large cages, but there's 100 animals. We have a baby room also. Um, and that's more like tubs and racks and that sort of thing. Cause as babies, they just do
Sure.
better. Small
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Man, that's wild. That's so much. And how far is that from your home in Thailand?
So if we're going to go there, we take a 1 hour flight from our house to Bangkok. And then an international flight is going to be about 2 hours and like 15 minutes or something to Kuala Lumpur.
Damn. And do
And
you
we're
have
not
like
there that much.
you're not?
No, we only pop in there maybe 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
have like do you just get like an Airbnb or something when you're in the area?
No, usually we stay at my partner's house.
Okay.
Yeah. We just stay in his extra bedroom.
Wow. That's incredible. Man. That's super cool, man. And it doesn't seem like you have any plans of slowing down at all.
No. No, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but no.
Man, it seems like retirement was just the beginning for you.
Yeah, all it did was free up time to do more reptile stuff, I think.
Yeah. Jeez.
But
I mean,
but
between YouTube and the Malaysian facility and then
yeah,
your
yeah.
animals here in California and everything, that's so much.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We we approach every year like it's our last because we never know if a country is going to close, if they're going to remove quotas, if they're going to ban whatever, if the airlines are going to stop um, accepting and flying animals around. We never know if U.S. Fish and Wildlife is going to, do anything. If bird flu or whatever is going to be, causing any. We didn't know if COVID was going to shut things down. Amazingly enough, it did not,
Wow.
but it certainly was on the table. As a zoonotic carrier of disease, we were worried that the airlines were going to no longer be allowing animals to fly around, and they continued on. So, but we never know what's going to happen, so we kind of we kind of approach every year as like it could be our last.
Hmm.
And so I don't know. And to be honest with you, if we do get to a year and it is our last year because one country closed or the airline embargoed, whatever, or whatever happens, anything along those lines, okay, that's cool. It's been a good run, like I'm ready to retire. Now I'm good because next year is our 30th year in business, and I can't even count how many years, as a reptile keeper and breeder and all that. So um I've had a great run at it anyway, but
Yeah.
still have some things that I want to do. There may be a book in my future also, just because we have so many stories and we've done so many really crazy things. There's a lot of importers that have been importing, but um, there's not a lot of importers that have a lot of stories. A lot that have traveled and done a lot of really wild things. And so I kind of feel like it it might it might be an interesting story, an interesting read if I ever, get that finished and really document things. But
Yeah.
but again, it could be a total flop, just like our videos, like we were talking about, where like 3 people want to read the book, screw this guy. I don't want to read about all this. So I don't know. I have no idea. But
Yeah. Have you already started that process?
yeah, I've gotten it started. The thing where I get sidetracked is that I feel like the story's over, and then I'm like, I've so many times I've told my wife, I'm like, this is a whole new chapter in the book. Like this story is it's never ending, you know? So I don't know when it, it would be like, it could be where you finish the book, you hand it off to the publisher and they start doing their thing. And then something super crazy happens and you're like, why did I submit already? Like, this is the craziest story ever, you know? So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know when the right time.
I guess just keep adding to it, right?
Yeah,
Until
yeah. Just as long as you sit down and start it, and then you can just keep adding. I just don't know when the right time would be to like send it to the publisher or whatever.
yeah. Or you just make it volume 1.
Yeah, right, right. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Hell yeah. I'm sure I can't imagine the stories you have after 30 years of it. I mean, just the one with the sketchy dude polishing the glass, and slamming the table, going full, Hulk mode on them. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So so before we wrap up, you're a big guy. What's your lifting program look like?
I hit the gym every day.
Okay.
I have to go and do something every single day. So um being at the age I am now, I had to adjust a lot of things, stop with the like super heavy lifting and just lift smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I landed on June 2nd, I'm kind of proud of this. So this is why I'll tell you. Uh, we landed here in the US on June 2nd. And some days prior to that, I decided that I was going to diet and lean out while I was here because when you're traveling, it's really hard to follow a diet. But when you're based at your house, you eat whatever you buy at the supermarket and load in your fridge and your cupboards, right? So um, I'm not a stranger to dieting and doing all those things. So I started dieting the second that I landed here, and so uh, I I dropped 20 pounds since June 2nd, just leaning out,
Damn.
not really dropping any muscle or anything, but just leaning out just for health and general like aesthetics or whatever. So I'm still in the process of my diet. I don't have like a goal in mind. I'm just kind of just doing it just to reset, because I know when I turn around and go back and we start traveling again, then of course the diet will be difficult to adhere to for at least while we're traveling and stuff. So, but other than that, I'm weight training every day. My wife and I, we go to the gym in the morning. I'm one of those morning people, so we get the weight training thing finished early, and then we do like a cardio walk after. So I get back to the house and I'll drink. I have like this blender thing that I make and drink that down, and then we'll do like a 4 mile like a power walk, and then that's pretty much it. And we do that. We try to do that like every single day,
Oh
and
man,
it's
what a
just
dream. That
yeah, it
sounds
just
awesome.
and of course it's like retired life, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of those 3 days. Then when we get back to the house, eat a big breakfast and start packing boxes for FedEx. Yeah, and then drive to FedEx and whatever. But it's just something that I've been doing for a very, very long time, just doing all the weight training all the time. So
Do you make your own plans? What do you do? Like, what's your split look like? Is it like do you do like a push pull legs and then just like a
no,
fun
I
day?
just I just go through it every day. I spread it out throughout the week. So because I mean I should take more breaks, but um I don't like to do a split. I like to just, one day, like biceps, triceps will be a split, but one day will be chest, the next day will be back, the next day will be shoulders, the next day will be legs. And if my body feels burnt, then I'll just do a cardio day,
Mm,
and then of course there's abs thrown in there, mixed up in there and all that. And I just run through it. It's just what I've always done. And I don't lift like I used to. I still get down, but I don't lift like I used to because I had to have knee surgery like 3 years ago, so it's kind of like, okay, all those heavy squats are out. And
yeah.
so you just have to adjust, as you get older, you just have to adjust and start lifting smarter. But I tell
Yeah.
people too, like you have to that mind muscle connection is a thing, and it takes time to achieve. But once you have it down, you can accomplish so much more without having to like grind out all these crazy heavy weights and use crappy form and swing and momentum and all that stuff. Once you have like really good mind muscle connection, you can get things done. I prefer lighter weight these days, but I think about every movement with my brain. I have a good connection, but getting old sucks though. It's not like I used to be.
I I'm 35, so I feel like I've been starting to feel it like these
Yeah.
past like 2 or 3 years, where it's like, man, my hip hurts, my back hurts, my shoulder, and then all of a sudden you'll get this random pain that shows up, and it's like, well, I guess I'm not benching for a while, or at least I'm going light, and it's yeah, it's
It
so
comes more and more the older you get. It comes more and more. As soon as I hit 50 is when I started having all kinds of weird stuff going on with me, but it's okay. A lot of times those issues force you to make changes that are good for you for longevity and stuff. So like
yeah,
it forces you to do stuff. It's like, well, I just injured this, so now I'm gonna have to figure out how to train around it or whatever. And then you might, in hindsight, you might be like, you know what, that was a blessing in disguise, because that injury could have been 100 times worse, but that was just a little subtle reminder, and then it forced me to change. And now I'm going about things, like a different angle or different whatever. And then, um, so that's the way I try to look at it.
yeah. That I'm trying to, my wife just started lifting like a month ago, and after like badgering her for a decade. So I'm super excited and super proud of her, but it's that mind muscle connection that you talked about. It's, getting her to like doing lat pull downs. She's like, I just feel it in my arms, so she's not
Yeah.
feeling it in her back yet,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it'll come in time, eventually you'll feel that, where you're really recruiting your back, and,
Hmm.
it's kind of fun watching her go through it. It made me like excited to it rejuvenated me. That's cool that you and your wife do it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we go to the gym together, but we don't train together.
Yeah.
Because I train fast. I don't sit for long periods of time. I have my headphones in. I'm the guy that doesn't talk to anybody, and I just do like I go through it pretty fast, like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and I'm out. But I'm
Yeah.
sweaty, I'm walking out of there, and I'm sweaty. So like
Yeah.
I get it done. But I don't like to just sit and wait and catch my breath and all that stuff. I just go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 7 days a week, you can't drag it out and do a 2-hour session every day, or
No, no, no,
you'd
no.
be
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. It was great talking to you,
Yeah.
and I'm sure everybody probably tuned out with the whole lifting part, but that was for me. So whatever.
Their loss.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you got it.